All right, my friends, welcome back to another V-Rising video. This is going to be the biggest changes for V-Rising veterans in the 1.1 patch. We are going to just quickly hop into this. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to record anything beforehand. That was not allowed for us to do. So no big deal. We're going to go ahead and cover things now for everybody. So really quickly, let's talk about some of the biggest changes. First things first is, oh, by the way, there are going to be spoilers in this video. So if you're not interested in that, this is probably not the video for you. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started. So first things first on the horse, you probably notice here the stat ranges on horses have been massively reduced, kind of largely nerfed. And the reason for that is we have the stables here to basically upgrade our horses over time. So if we go here, you can see a vampire horse. So don't worry too much on what horse you unlock early, because once you get a vampire horse, it increases the caps to the max of those stats. Max move speed has been reduced from 11 to 10. Just keep that in mind. And then if you go to the stables, depending on what you feed to your horse from different flowers, you can increase their movement speed, their acceleration, or their rotation speed. Then you have 5 vampire horse perks that are unlocked by feeding specific elixirs to those horses. We're not going to go over specifically what those are. Maybe in another video we'll talk about those. But specifically, I would say the funniest one for me is Thrust. This one here allows you to use your ultimate ability while on horseback. You kind of charge at people, you can incapacitate them, and then break minor obstacles in your path, which is awesome and funny all at the same time. Kind of crazy, very, very cool. Next, we're going to talk about the spell mastery system. So if you look here on the bottom left, you can see we have spell mastery points. Obviously, we start with Blood Right and Shadow Bolt. And as we unlock those two, as we unlock these spells, you work towards your spell mastery for that specific school. So if we get one more from Blood Rage, we unlock this first perk here, Improved Blood Mend. So our Blood Mend is now a little bit stronger. And then as we go up the list here, 2 more will unlock Blood Drain Rate Reduction. So 15% reduced rate at which our blood drains. And finally, we unlock 2 more. We are at 7 total. We get the kind of like the penultimate point here, which is like the most important one, the strongest one here at the end of the spell school. Every one of these schools has something like this. Increase the amount of HP you heal from leech by 3%. So it can range, these bonuses can range from like quality of life, somewhat minor quality of life bonuses, to extremely good things here. Like for instance, Veil cooldown rate reduced by 5%, increase the effects of ultimate spells and like minion damage, etc. by 5%. And Ignite lasts 1 second longer and deals damage over time 1 additional time. Very strong overall. Let's go ahead and get into the new spells while we're here. So let's go ahead and look at these. Here are the new ones here. So we have Blood Carrion Swarm, which is these are all the new spells are tier 2 spells. So keep that in mind. Blood Carrion, a swarm of 4 bats, kind of goes 50% magic damage. It goes in a very specific trajectory. You can't adjust the trajectory. So it'll just end at the same point. And if you hit them all, very, very strong. There's a jewel effect where if you hit all of them, it actually stuns the target. Next, we have Reign of Chaos, one of my favorites. It's a gigantic AoE of Chaos Bolts. They all hit pretty hard. And it's very, very, very strong there. Let's go ahead and look at this one here. Let's go ahead and go up here. I think I saw an enemy up here. Quickly, a bone guy. Where is he? Got some crows. Okay, crows will do. So we have Unholy Chains. You channel it for a second, then it explodes. Very cool. Then you have Curse here. You hit something with Curse, and then after a few seconds, it pops for more damage. So again, Unholy Chains. Very cool there. It slows them down and speeds you up. And then Curse. Curse, you hit something with Curse on it. If you hit something with Curse on it, all the damage it takes will be kind of recorded. After 3.5 seconds, it pops for additional damage. Very cool. Very cool. Very cool. Okay, so next thing here, we're going to... So I'm just kind of skipping around here. And the next ones here, we have Arctic Storm and Lightning Tendrils. Arctic Storm. This one is pretty cool. This one will freeze. Let's go ahead and go like... Let's go, yeah, whatever. Go like this. See if we can't find an enemy here. So Arctic Storm will freeze. Like that. It does a little bit of damage over time. Here we go. Let's go to these guys here. And it does a little bit of an AoE in front of you. And then after after the last tick, if they have chill on them, that last hit will freeze them. And then we also have lightning tendrils. Very strong. It basically shoots a machine gun of lightning tendrils, dealing 6 bolts, 40% magic damage for each bolt. So very cool. It goes like this. Very strong. And again, 100 after 1.2 seconds on Arctic Storm, we'll go back to that real quick. Does 180% magic damage in a cone. Right there. It'll freeze like that. There we go. So overall, new spells are very, very cool. And we're going to link back over here real quickly to our base. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about progression. Progression has largely remained unchanged. Everything before level 70 is mostly the same. There's a couple unlocks that have changed a bit. We get like things like elixirs and the new weapon unlocks from different bosses. So for instance, Frostmon now gives you the claws. He also gives you an elixir of the beast. Gaius gives you the twin blades. And Bane now is the one who gives you the throwing daggers, while the slashers are on one of the new bosses, Jakira. Here gives you Elixir of the Twisted, slashers, and a passive slot. So again, these elixirs are spread out through different bosses. Passive slots are also spread out through different bosses. You have 5 of these total. Very important to remember that. And Jakira is the one who unlocks the slashers for you a little later on in your run. So again, we'll talk about progression. Because the game was already pretty much complete whenever 1.0 happened, specific progression is a little bit different. So now to get certain materials and certain unlocks, we go to Oakvale up here. Let's go ahead and show the map, the area here. You go to Oakvale to get specific bosses there, to kill specific bosses for specific research. That isn't necessarily required to finish the game, per se, but it is, let's put it this way. It is required to get the highest possible power that you can get. Also, Dantos gives you Emberglass, which is going to be required to craft certain things. But all in all, the majority of your progress is still going to be just roughly this, very similar, but just some new, enjoyable, lots of fun over in Oakvale. Look at these base plots. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Full of 8 base plots. The best ones here are these two by far. Very, very strong. Again, we'll go ahead and look at the bosses really quickly here. Stavros, he gives us the advanced sawmill, weapon coatings, and a purple castle teleporter. So we have 4 castle teleporters now. Weapon coatings as well are very, very strong. Go ahead and look at these. You craft them in the alchemy table. They take venom sap, which you get from corrupted wood, which you refine in the advanced sawmill. You can craft each of these. We won't go through each of these individually now, but again, there's a total of 8 elixirs. You can have one of these active at a time, and then 6 coatings. And the way the coatings work is you have 2 coatings at once, or not 2. You can have as many coatings as you possibly want. You know, you can have as many as you have weapons. But the way it works is once I proc this one coating, it will be on a 12-second cooldown, and all coating effects will be on a 6-second cooldown. So if I hit someone with this, this goes on cooldown, and then this one, after 6 seconds, I can use this one. But it will take a total of 12 seconds to get this one back off of. All right, let's talk about another important progression change. I will say not change, but information is the paper press is extremely important. We look at the research bench here. It's now separated by different types, which is a huge deal. This means that you can now specifically get a weapon or magic source or armor, specifically what you want. Not the actual type, but just like the actual type of research specifically. You can get that. So important note here, for instance, is paper. If you have 250 paper, you can guarantee that you unlock the Blood Rose Brew recipe, which is a very, very big deal, very important thing. So again, this is a super nice quality of life change, and to me it means that all research, all things are much more important, specifically the paper press, because now we can like guarantee and like rush a specific thing if we want to, but also because schematics in general and scrolls are very big. So let's go ahead and talk about another cool change, the redistribution engine. This right here we unlock from Henry Blackbrew. You can do this. Go ahead and do this. Let me pause this real quick. So Henry Blackbrew gives us the redistribution engine. It allows us to go ahead and do this. Add connection. It allows us to route where the output of our refinement thing goes. We have something here. We can do this. We begin crafting these. And we can hit this button, quick send all. to forward it to the box, or we can just toggle auto send so it just automatically sends. So now all of our scrolls and schematics will be coming here to this box, which is very important because we will want schematics as much as possible for our Stygian summoning circles. So scrolls, this is another big gigantic change. Scrolls and schematics are now extremely valuable. I highly recommend making them as early as you possibly can, because we can make lesser blood souls and primal blood souls. Those are the bosses for tier 1 and tier 2 incursions, and they drop the same things that they drop in incursion events, meaning rare weapons, purple weapons, orange weapons, tier 4 jewels, and they also drop passive research. So for instance, passives now are kind of unlocked similar to research benches, kind of random through this Altar of Stygian Awakening, and you get 5 of them total. They go towards your build, and you can actually drop little passive scrolls through the bosses in Mortium. So let's really quickly touch on passives, how important these are. Like I said, they give you stats, units of stats. The way stat caps and stats work is you get a unit or a source of stat from different things like your armor, your necklace, your blood, or your passives, or your elixirs, weapons, that kind of thing. And they each give a certain number of units or sources of stats. Once you hit the stat cap, for instance, with like move speed or whatever, once you hit the cap on this, anything that goes over is lost. It is not a diminished return. You just lose it entirely. So if you're building way too much movement speed on your gear, you're wasting your stats. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and go back to passives. So you kind of want to pick these passives in a specific way. So for instance, I have lightning fast strikes for 7% attack speed. I have renewing flames, gives me bonus damage to ignited enemies. Turbulent velocity, 4%, that's a unit of stats, and then another unit on top of that whenever you deal damage to an enemy. Dark enchantment, this is a very strong one, 4% damage reduction, and triggers a shield absorbing 270% of your spell power for 4 seconds when you take 30% of your maximum health in damage over the last 2 seconds. So basically, if you get burst down too hard, you get a big shield to protect you, which is really cool. And then you have a really strong one here, Bastion. 8% bonus health, and while you are crowd controlled, any kind of CC, freeze, stun, that kind of thing, you get 25% damage reduction, which is really, really, really good. So some of these range, these are tier 2s and these are tier 1s. They range from, each of these will give you some kind of stat effect. So for instance, Flowing Sorcery gives you 7% spell cooldown. And then some of them give you very, very strong things. So you kind of want to mix and match these to craft your perfect build, which I really, really enjoy. Again, we go to the spell stats here, or the stat caps. You can see here what these look like. Overall, if anyone's concerned about losing power, you don't have to be. You are not losing power. You are stupidly powerful with these stats, because what this does is it makes it so you can get to the cap of certain stats much easier. So before it was like single very specific things gave you very specific boosts. So for instance, before, like your green Nick could give you 8% move speed. So it was like, well, if I want move speed, I would get like Rogue Blood, Shadow Set, and green Neck, and then like movement speed of my weapon. That was all you could get. Well, now it's like on top of that, we get like stats on your weapons or whatever, but we also get stats from armor, blood. You can mix the blood to get bonus stats there, and you can even get passives with more stats on top of them as well. So there's so many different sources. The goal is to kind of mix and match and create your perfect weapon, perfect build. So for instance, if I have, let's go ahead and look at the Fusion Forge here. So I have 1,000 storms here, and let's say I really wanted the stats on this specifically. I can fuse those attack speed and crit power. Then let's say it's a Veil cooldown rate. Go ahead and craft those. Anything on the left-hand side, this is what's being fused into. Anything on the right, you're taking the stats from those and putting it into this. You can pick which ones you want. And boom, there we have it. Here is our 1,000 storms, right? Very cool. Very, very strong. Look at the stats on that. Very, very powerful. So what's cool about this is the Fusion Forge, what's so strong about this, it means that loot matters in all stages of the game. The reason for that is you can fuse anything. You just saw me fuse a blue into a legendary. You can do the same thing with jewels. So I have like a perfect, so the increased projectile range on this jewel here. I could pick that one here from a tier 2, put it on a tier 4, and craft that and get a, the jewel. Essentially, you can use that to get perfect jewels. The reason that's such a big deal is the prices for tier 2 jewels are significantly lower for tier 4s. Instead of spending all of those mats, you can just craft a bunch with like iron and regular level jewels or gems to try to get the exact stats you want to make it a little bit cheaper and then you can use that to get your jewels, right? Very, very, very strong, very useful. You probably noticed I was crafting this, and it was said that it takes whatever. It took a ember glass. That's one of the new resources. I have some in this box in my treasury floors here. Very cool. Treasury floors, you can basically pull on those to any crafting station, whatever you have stored in a box inside over that's on treasury floors. You can use that to pull into whatever crafting station you want. And you unlock those, the treasury floors, from Niklaus the Fallen at level 35 or whatever it is. Right here it is, 35. You get that very, very early. Okay, so next thing, big change here. Let's talk about the blood homogenizer. You have these different, this is blood mixing right here. You have all the different bloods. First and foremost, bloods have all been changed. They are all now combat focused except for worker blood. So for instance, mutant blood used to be just like heavy utility and that was almost completely useless. Now it is no longer that way. Let's go ahead and do this with creature. You can see creature here gives you HP, movement speed, healing received. So, and then the tier 4 gives you a huge physical damage steroid whenever you bite something. Pretty cool. And then mutant blood is like spell power focus, shapeshift, move speed, and then a huge amount to ultimate as well. And like ultimate cooldown rate. So essentially what you do when you mix these, you pick a specific tier, one of the tiers, depending on how good your blood is. And then as long as it's 90% or higher, you'll also get the tier 4 as well. Let's say we decided to do this one here. We get a ton of shapeshift move speed here. If I eat this now, while we are shapeshifted, you can see our movement speed is through the roof at 7.9. We are cruising. We are going so fast with our wolf form. It's basically faster than some horses. I mean, if you go look right here, I am faster than this horse in wolf form right now. Okay? Very, very strong. Extremely, it's very cool you could do that to mix these bloods. You can imagine getting those different stat points. So for instance, if we used, go back to here, we go look at our spell power here. Bonus spell power is at 17. So you can use, if you use 2 different bloods like Scholar, which also gives you 14 spell power, and then you use that on Mutant Blood or Draculan, like this, you could have 28% increased spell power if you wanted to. Very strong. But instead, we're going to use Warrior here. I'm going to do this with weapon cooldown rate. There we go. And, whoops, go ahead. This is going to show a very big change as well with spell and weapon charges. You see it with Warrior Blood at the bottom, 12 weapon charge rate, and then this one has 12 spell charge rate. What's good about this is, let's go ahead. Ultimate on. What's good about this is, sorry, let's go like this, Sanguine Coil. There we go. Let's go Polarity Shift. There, we can charge much faster that way. So what happens with the charges, they're no longer randomized. It is no longer a random recast. Instead, what they've done is every time you use a spell, you gain charges. So all the way up to 100, right? So once you get that 100 charge, our next spell, you see this little blue effect around us here. That means we are charged and ready to do a recast. The next spell we use triggers a recast. Like that. So very, very cool. And the way, how that works with Phantasm, by the way, is Phantasm, instead of giving you a random chance to recast, it just increases the amount of stacks you get per Phantasm stack. So if you have 12 Phantasm stacks as the max now, on top of this, I would have 27 charges happening per spell cast. I would be casting like an absolute maniac, right? Same thing goes with weapons. Those are obviously, same thing goes with weapons here. You can do the same thing up to that. If you get to 100, you can use 2 weapon skills back to back. So important note with that, obviously that would mean Spear Q is absolutely ridiculous, right? Overall, but Spear Q has actually been changed so that the Q applies diminishing returns. So on the stagger, so if I Spear Q somebody, first it's been a little bit delayed. If I Spear Q somebody, they get stacks of diminishing returns for immunity on stagger. And if I Spear Q them again, once they have 10 stacks, then they can basically act out of that Spear Q. So you have to watch out for that. You don't want to sit there as a group just like 4-man spear queuing anymore, because then the person can just immediately pop a counter once they get hit 10 times, they can pop a counter and then just fear you all. You've all wasted your stuff. So it kind of makes it so you can't just like brain dead instantly delete somebody, right? There you go. So blood, very, very strong. And last, I'm going to do this. I'm going to show you what this looks like for, you have mutant on this? I don't have mutant on this. So we have a different stuff. You have different things here. So Dracula, that's okay. So yep, you can mix any of these things. So the fun of this is kind of figuring out like what the build is, and there's going to be a lot of videos about that in the future. All in all, very, very cool changes. But so far, that's probably going to be it for now. We're going to go over more in depth on these things in a later video, but hopefully you found this helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. But otherwise, like and subscribe, because this is what we're going to be doing all of 1.1. Anyway, that's going to be it. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll catch you in the next one.